What's going on, guys? I'm gonna do an update on BTC here on Bitcoin, specifically kind of around the cycles and some of the capital flow. I'll share with you guys something I kind of keep an eye on um, around some actual AI as far as the capital flows for Forex, but then specifically on Bitcoin here today that I thought was really interesting. But let me just start with, let's go with the charts first. We've been talking about ever since we made the high in January, cyclically speaking, we thought 8.6 months later could be a significant turn, depending on when we finally broke out of this consolidation phase that we've been in. And here, let me load this up. Sorry about this, guys. It's just all right. So BTC on the monthly level, we like to do a top down, which refers to us starting with the higher time frames and then working down to the smaller cycles. So there's lots of different types of cycles. Um, but what's interesting, the 8.6 frequency is actually what the global business cycle's on. I've taught this over and over again. We've blogged about it and done YouTube videos. But coming in here 8.6 months from the high, I think September is gonna. We've been saying for a while is gonna be pretty important, especially if we didn't make a lower low. And then now you can see this sine wave starting to turn up. And not only are you getting through the summer doldrums, which is true for most markets, um, September can usually be a pretty volatile month. And let's actually go to the daily here. So what we've been picking up, and we've talked a lot about the smaller waves here, this 8.6 weekly cycle absolutely worked amazing. Almost, I think it went 11 for 13 as far as turning points. So we had one here. Here was the high with the cycle. We had a pivot low with the cycle. We had a pivot high here with the cycle. Another lower high with the cycle. Pivot low with this, the absolute low here with this turning point. Another lower high with this turning point. Another lower high with this turning point. Lower high here with this turning point. A low with this cycle. This is the only one that didn't produce a turn. We did get a turn here with this cycle. All right, another lower high. Lower highs here. This was suspect, but I guess it was another lower high. And then it's been pretty choppy. So this had a really good rhythm into June, and cyclically speaking, it's been a little bit tougher. We haven't this high here was a lower high with the turn, but this turning point we actually had a higher high for the first time in a while. But you would have expected to see a higher high with this cycle for us to cycle all the way into the August 4th, and that didn't materialize. We actually failed at pi, this green line, which is another cyclical concept, right in front of the 200, back down. Um, so is what it is. This is not going to be. You're not going to see that type of cycle always play out where it's that accurate. I mean, that was one of the most beautiful things I've seen. Um, and most people didn't even realize that was there. So this cycle exists throughout nature, and obviously not just in markets, but in a lot of things. The precession of the equinox, which is a derivative of 8.6. It's 25,000 years. Anyway, I don't want to get into that. So the next turn here on the faster cycle is September 3rd, which finishes out the month. And then you can see that cycles are converging here. Both the monthlies turned up and the weekly and then dailies. So I think September is going to offer some sort of major directional change. And that's just looking at the cycles. Now, from a price perspective, we need to see, obviously, most people are focused on price, which is only one dimension, and or they do fundamental analysis, but very few people understand cyclical analysis or I mean, it's not taught in schools or on very few trading desks. So that's the time component. But we want to look at price and time. So I'll throw the bands up here just to make it a little bit easier. See the trend. So what we care about then from a price perspective is these lower high pivots I've been talking about. Very easy to see. Whether or not we're creating another lower high here, hopefully not, relative to the 8400 pivot. Let me draw this. Haven't really followed us. Okay, lower high. Lower high, lower high, lower highs, lower highs. Do we get another lower high here? Maybe at the 200 at 8,000? But this is clearly the pivot. Now, if we once you move up and then you move away from it, that creates the pivot. Now, as we move back up here, this is still the pivot that stands. It's right at pi, it's right at the 200. It's basically the 9,000 area. Now, if we come up here and we fail at the 200 and we move away from it, that'll create another subsequent lower high within this pattern. But that's the trend that we need to see break out to the upside to really signal, hey, this is long-term bullish. We should see a lot of momentum come back in the market. And then you can draw the downside as this support right here, which we've been holding. So this would be very bullish. We start making higher highs. And like we said, we've been kind of saying, hey, we haven't been able to make the higher highs on any of the weekly cycles. So maybe it is the monthly cycle that needs to play out in the back half of the year. And so this is bullish, being above the bands. But again, we still haven't quite changed the technical structure on the upside. It's going to be good resistance between 8,000 and 8,500. Great place to hedge, take some profit if you've been buying stuff well the last couple of weeks. I'll just cover the intermediate term. And then I wanted to just touch on one other cyclical thing I thought was interesting from another analytical viewpoint outside of block edges. And that is, well, here, the intermediate term. See how the bands, you see these guys, these blue wave, this is kind of like a wave structure. I like the visual. All these bands are laying on top of each other. That's very indicative of a range trade. And then now you can see they've all fanned and turned up. So that's showing you this intermediate term new uptrend. And this is bullish. We're above pi, and then price is above the 200, so we call that the northern hemisphere. That's a sign of a bull market. So this is an intermediate term time frame. So there's lots of room for us to rally here. The targets kind of right now, we've been getting more bullish and more aggressive on dips, is, you know, a move back to 8,000, 8,500. All right, and the last thing I wanted to say cyclically, probably one of the only AI computer firms that I kind of trust. A lot of people claim they have AI, but Armstrong Economics they've been around 70s and 80s, and we're probably the biggest commercial advisor in the Forex markets and just markets in general. But they have a computer that runs real AI, call it Socrates. But these guys are no joke. It's 24/7 monitoring everything. All right, the equipment alone is 100 million to put in. These guys are actually, they ported all the systems to the IBM Sequoia computer, right, which is one of the world's fastest computers. But the equipment alone is 100 million just to try to put out a project like this. And so these guys track everything. The amount that they charge clients and institutions to use this is just, you wouldn't even know exists. I think it says it here at the bottom. Just in energy, it costs them $6 million to run this stuff. Slots are available at 5 million to 100 million annually. They have clients pay them. So these guys are literally advising central banks, the biggest of the big. And so, but anyway, they have subscriptions now that they're offering. I don't want to get into it too much. But the capital flows here on the Forex side, I'll probably do a video here when I talk about an update on currencies. But what I found interesting today was this is the first time I've seen for Bitcoin on the monthly level what they say is a slingshot to the upside ready. So their computer is looking at this cyclically and all the pattern recognition that it does, and it's talking about we finally made an important low, but now it's picking up that the slingshot to the upside is ready. So it's the computer here is anticipating the same thing that we've been saying. There's a higher probability now that this market can really take off. The trend has been bullish. That's the same in our model. Same thing with the cycle trend. Now their trend, I'm assuming this is intermediate term, is bearish, which has been right. I mean, it's been making intermediate term lower highs. If we have a little bit faster time frame, like I was showing on the 4-hour, this would actually read bullish in our model. So anyway, guys, I hope that helps. I think join our chat. I mean, and we've been putting out some pretty good alerts. We bought some of these alts pretty well on the low. I guess one of the best, the most recent buys we had here was on EOS. I still think this has more to run. And we actually added today on a few other altcoins, but I'll leave that for those of you that are in the private room. So if you guys are wondering how to join that, under here our education tab, it's free to come in our chat room, and this is private trading room. Here is 99 bucks. That's our crypto team. We're putting in real-time alerts, talking everything crypto, mining, just the markets in general, timing. But yeah, anyway, you guys get the point. So anyway, I hope that helps, and if you guys enjoy your evening, talk to you in the morning.